All right, it is 6 o'clock, so I would like to formally call this meeting to order. Thank you all for coming to the last school board meeting of 2022. And I would like our student reps this afternoon to lead us in the Pledge of Allegiance. So if you would all rise. I pledge allegiance to the flag of the United States of America and to the republic for which it stands, one nation, under God, indivisible, with liberty and justice for all. Thank you both for doing that. And school board members, have you had a chance to take a look at the agenda this evening? There aren't any revisions or additions, so if there's a motion.
I'll move that we approve the agenda for this evening.
And I'll second it.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the agenda has passed. And we will start with the superintendent's report. So Superintendent Jesse, it's all you.
Great. Thank you so much, Board President Davidson, other board directors, students, community members, and staff. Let's start and kick off. If you didn't know, we're having a replacement levy for the Shelton School District coming up on the ballot. The ballots are going out on January 17th with closing on Valentine's Day. This is a replacement levy for some of our main activities: counseling, nursing services, special education, as well as activities, athletics, and some of our maintenance costs are generally covered by the levy. It is 11% of our overall operational budget, and so that it's at the currently it is pinned at the rate that is currently being collected. So it is not a increase in the rate that we have, and we're collecting on every 1,000 per assessed value on real estate. So folks can look for that. If you need additional information, you can go right on our website. It's right on the front page of the website. It has a pin on it. It says replacement levy on it. Folks can open that up. There's a lot of information. There's a couple of PDFs. And they are the flyers, and they are also in Spanish. So if any folks want to see facts, they can go onto the website. It's right there, or they can easily call just the front office, and we can help direct them and provide them with assistance if there's any questions regarding that replacement levy. There's been a number of things related to our strategic plan. I'll be covering that information tonight in the state of the district. One of the things that we are doing is around safe and welcoming environment. I know all of last year, I talked a lot about discipline. Discipline was up. You'll see that in one of our slides. We've been taking a number of steps to try to ameliorate or address the discipline across the district. All 8 schools, no schools untouched. Some of those efforts include like really strong orientations as students come into school. Really building those relationship engagement strategies is a focus for all 3 high schools. And then of course academics. When we know students are engaged academically, that helps also cut our discipline rate. So starting the year, we were kind of similar or at the same rate of some of our discipline, but we have had a precipitous fall in our discipline rate for the month of November. So I'm really proud of the staff for really seeing that dip. I think it's something that I think should sustain itself. We'll probably have some ups and downs, most certainly through the year, but overall, that's something, again, we're focused on, and it's something we're monitoring every month about the discipline rate and addressing it. Sometimes there are some hotspots or things going on that we want to address for us. So more work to come, but also a moment of just recognition for, again, the staff, and knowing that it is a priority for us to address the needs of our students and their social emotional learning, as well as the safety of all. Speaking of safety, there has been, speaking of precipitous rises too, over the last month we've had a significant number of issues related to drug use at OBJH, our junior high, as well as at the high schools. It is truly I would term it as a health crisis, and we're not talking about COVID now, we're talking about drug use. And so there's a lot of things that are surround each of those situations, not just as simply as something I think some people think of it as recreational use or just testing things out. There's actually a story behind each of those situations. and is something that we are taking on case by case, going over specifically each situation and trying to figure out our best response. We are communicating issues out to the school's community when they are something larger or something else is going on. We have a number of health issues every day. We have a number of kids with their own health and safety plans for them. But in this particular case, if it's something that does need to be put out there, we will put that out there. We are also starting an educational campaign this week at OBJH, and the high schools will be picking that up when they come right back from the break, which is a good time to really address this with our students about what is drug use, what are the types of drugs that are out there, what are things that use signs and things, and how to avoid it, and how to, really take it on when you know a friend or a loved one is doing it. Who do you report it to, or who can you go to have those confidential conversations? I think the more we do take this on as a health crisis, as a community, the more we will be able to address it. My last one, no surprises, if you've been attending any of the board meetings or listening in, if you are so interested in being a bus driver, part-time, full-time, any interest in driving a bus, transporting students, maybe it's one of your callings, maybe you are at home and you're realizing that the holidays are very expensive and need some extra money, give us a call. We'd be happy to help you. We can train you and most certainly get you started in driving a bus as early as the end of January if you are so inclined. So we're always ready for bus drivers. Anytime in the Shelton School District, just call the main office and we will help direct you and hook you up with the right people. So that is going to conclude my comments for this evening. Thank you very much, Board President Davidson.
Thank you for your report. Next up, we will go into community comments, and I do have 3 names that have signed up tonight for community comments, so I'm going to read the standard language around community comments, and also if we get anybody who calls in, we will be notified of that as well. As part of the regular school board meeting, the board invites community members to make public comments in person and/or by phone as conditions allow. If speaking in person, please follow the public comment procedure by signing in and stating your name and address at the podium when called by the board chair. If making comments by phone, please dial 1-253-215-8782 and enter meeting ID number 854-3386-9913. Each person is allowed 3 minutes to speak. In accordance with the Open Public Meetings Act, the board is not allowed to discuss items that are not on the agenda. The board will direct the superintendent to follow up on any items that arise during public comment as appropriate. The board will not allow complaints against an individual staff member or student in open session unless that individual has requested an open public hearing. The first name on the list is Christina Muller-Shin. Thank you.
Microphones. Okay, good evening. My name is Christina Muller-Shin. I work for Mason County Public Health and Human Services on the Behavioral Health Response Team. I'm actually the one doing the drug education classes. So one of the things I do is run our overdose prevention and Narcan program. I am here tonight to urge the Shelton School District Board to allow any school of any grade to have Narcan on campus and to have as many staff and as possible trained on overdose recognition and response. I've been tracking opioid overdose numbers in our county for 5 years, and in the past year, the age of people experiencing overdoses has gotten younger and younger. It's my expert opinion that at this point in time, it's absolutely essential that all schools, including middle and junior high schools, to have Narcan easily accessible to use in case of an opioid overdose. Although the RCW that was put into legislation in 2019 only requires high schools and districts with over 2,000 students to have Narcan on campus, the opioid-related overdose policy guidelines and trainings in school settings document published by OSPI specifically states, this guide provides school districts with a practice tool to distribute and administer opioid overdose medication in K through 12 schools. This verbiage leads me to believe that it is the intention of OSPI to support schools of all grades to have Narcan on campus. Furthermore, the Washington State Health Officer has issued a statewide standing order for Narcan that, quote, shall be considered a naloxone prescription for an eligible person or entity. This standing order authorizes any eligible person or entity in the state of Washington to possess, store, deliver, distribute, or administer Narcan. The OSPI guidelines document quotes this specifically. Again, I'm interpreting this to mean that they intend for any and all school entities to be allowed to have Narcan on campus. Narcan is a very safe medication. I have personally trained many schools and districts in Mason County on its use, including Shelton High School, the whole North Mason School District, Hood Canal School District, and Pioneer Middle School. I was also a guest speaker at the 2020 School Nurse Organization of Washington's Fall Conference and have provided training to school nurses statewide. We are seeing an incredibly troubling trend of younger and younger people using fentanyl, as young as 12 years old. Fentanyl overdoses come on very quickly and can become life-threatening in a matter of minutes. There may be little time to intervene and save someone's life. That 5 minutes it takes for EMS to get on scene may very well be the difference between life or death, or at least significant brain damage. Thank you for your consideration, and please feel free to contact me if you would like more guidance or to set up any trainings. Thank you.
Thank you very much. The next name I've got is Marilyn Aaron. Yes, that's just fine. If Jamie would like to come up here next. Jamie Taylor, I will call you and then I will call Marilyn.
Hello, my name is Jamie Taylor. I'm your county coroner, and I'm here tonight because I want to talk about the importance of Narcan as well. I'm doing training with Christina. We've been at the junior high yesterday, and we're going to be there again tomorrow. And it's troubling to see the trends that are happening in our youth and overdoses in general. Our caseload in Mason County, our deaths have increased. They've almost tripled in the last couple years. So Narcan is a life-saving device, and I just think that it's important to have in all of our schools. That's it. Thank you.
All right, thank you. All right, Marilyn Aaron.
Can you hear me? Okay. My name's Marilyn Aaron. I'm a parent of a high schooler and 2 elementary school students. One will be a middle schooler next year, so that's scary. But I attended in the beginning of November the informational forum down at the Civic Center and actually learned a lot about fentanyl usage and the trends in our county and kids that are using it, and spent a little bit of time after the fact talking to Christina, and I think his name's John Holbrook with the school district and one of the sheriff's deputies. But the reason why I'm up here is to urge you guys as a school board to look at having it available at all the schools. I know that I learned from that forum that North Mason even has Narcan available down at their preschool because they had a homeless encampment close by, and so they decided that that was important to have that available there. But yeah, as a parent, it's scary, and I don't ever want to see us lose a student because we weren't prepared. So I just really strongly urge you guys to look at that and don't look at anything stereotypical, and just look at the fact that, you know, in those seconds that we could save a life, and that it's best to have as many staff members. I mean, I would love to see all the staff members, even down to the bus drivers, to know how to use it, because we have some pretty distant bus routes. I know the bus out past us that my high schooler rides, it goes at least 14 miles out. So if they were prepared, then they could save a life. So yeah, anyway, thank you.
All right, thank you very much. Were there any telephone calls? Nope, there are not. And are there any other people that would like to sign up for public comment at this time? All right, that closes out the public comment section. We will go into reports and recognition. And we always get to start with our student reps. They're the first ones up. And it looks like we are missing Nieves Villa from Choice today, so we will start with Angela from Cedar High School. If you could let us know your school report.
we just first started our second trimester, which is pretty cool because we got a couple new students, and all grades are currently to a capacity as far as I know. And our students yesterday took the ASVAB test as well. I don't know about their schools. And it looks like our PE and health are currently trying to get a lesson plan for teaching kids again, and hopefully younger, because they want to go younger for some reason. And our students decided that ASB flyers for the dance that we are preparing for on February 4th will be able to print it out before winter break. So the students have something to look forward to when coming back. And our Envirothon team has also started meetings, which is where we went to our environmental competition, where we went to Ellensburg last year to state, which is pretty cool. That's about it.
All right, thank you, Angela. And Richard, do you have a report for us tonight for Shelton High School?
I do. Good evening. So we have started at Shelton High School starting a tradition where at every leadership meeting or every ASB meeting, I ask the leadership class what it is that they would like me to report to the school board. And when I asked that question yesterday, their greatest concern was school safety, but more specifically bathroom safety. There are a number of complaints about the people that hang out in the bathrooms and like the safety of the bathrooms. There have been some cases of guys in the girls' bathroom, and teachers have had to go in there and kick them out. Drug use in the bathrooms as well. This kind of ties into everything that we've talked about so far, like with the Narcan topic. And I know you mentioned how the school is doing efforts to, or not just the school, but the entire district is making efforts to reduce disciplinary action and try and connect with students. And tying into that, another concern was that the counselors aren't as available as students would like them to be. And I think this is another step to consider for reducing discipline that happens in the school, especially towards the end of trimesters when counselors are so overwhelmed with doing scheduling. There aren't often opportunities for students that need emotional guidance to get with a counselor. And so those were the main 2 points that were stressed by students: is safety, and more specifically bathroom safety, and counselor availability. On a lighter note, all of the kind of skills-based or STEM or CTE-based clubs are getting their season underway. I know the Cyber Patriots team, they competed this last weekend, which is most closely tied to Cedar, but there are some students from different high schools in there. So they competed, and I heard that they did really well. DECA's competition season is coming up. Skills USA, they have started their registration, and also robotics. They have started their competition season as well. And I would just like to say, it is scary to know that in schools there is, that we have to worry about using Narcan and worry about opioid overdoses. I think it was like in the last week or maybe 2 weeks ago, there had to be a lockdown at the school because a student needed to be accessed to that had overdosed on a drug. That's what I heard. I don't know if that's directly from the source, but that is that's what happened at Shelton High School, and that is scary. So I wouldn't like that to keep happening, for us to have to worry about drugs as a student body and as a community. So I'm glad that this is something we're addressing in this meeting. That is all I have.
All right, thank you, Richard. Thank you both for your school reports. We always appreciate hearing from you and hearing directly what the student concerns are. So I'm glad you're asking that question in the leadership class and can bring those things to us, whether it's whatever the subject matter might be. So thank you for that. All right, next up, we've got item 5.02, which is Shelton High School automotive teacher Mike Byer and students. We're going to have our CTE director, Gretchen, come up as well.
Good evening. Thanks so much for giving us this opportunity. I just wanted to take a moment
and introduce you to Mr. Byer, who runs our automotive pathway in our Med Academy. He and his graduates, as well as his current students, had the opportunity to compete in the 24-hour of Lemons. So I wanted to take a moment to recognize them, provide some certificates, but I really want to yield my time to Mr. Byer and his students.
Thank you, Madam President Davidson, distinguished board. I am Mike Byer. I'm the CTE automotive teacher at Shelton High School. And I had an idea back in spring to take some of my former students and put their CTE skills to the test and enter them in a race, a 24-hour endurance race in a $500 value car that is expected to break. You repair it there and get it back out on the track. I did not drive. I tapped 4 of my former students to be drivers and a 5th student to be in the pits with me to help keep that vehicle on the road. We won a national award, the Organizer's Choice Award at the Ridge last October. And we're going to enter the race again in April and again next year in October. So as my students graduate, I'll continue to add additional students as drivers. My current students, for the significant repairs, we did blow the engine up, but we're able to limp it across the line. But my current students they just finished it this week. They've rebuilt the engine and we're ready to go again. I will let my students Ethan and Kristen Payment give you a little bit of information, answer any questions you might have about the race, the process, those kinds of things.
Hi, so I'm Kristen. I was a student graduate of 2020 of Shelton High School, and I took Mr. Byer's auto class, and I just kind of wanted to talk to you guys as to why this is educational and something that you should support, why this is something that should grab your attention. And the first thing is that this project not only has motor skills education, this also has classroom education. Mr. Byer starting this project again and having students complete an essay as to why they should be on this team. So making the kids want to do something, hey, we need to do something to get on a team like this. And when people see what an amazing chance that this was, more people want it and more people want it. So he's got an essay and he's having a new team lead and a new team captain, a student-led captain. The accountability, the teamwork, the time management, all the lessons that are coming throughout that is incredible in the first place. But next is the motor skills, learning how to drive a car. During this, we took a course for racing, and basically we lost control of our car and learned how to get it back. And that's truly something I think that every single person in their life should have, because we can prevent crashes a little bit more if we can know how to correct our car when it's uncontrolled. In that hesitant situation, if we know how to react, sometimes we can save that reaction from happening. So they're not only learning that, but his students just rebuilt an entire engine of a race car that was not supposed to be a race car. So that's something, just relevant soft skills, like I said, the accountability, the time management, all that, the sponsorships, us learning how to talk to sponsorships, learning how to engage with people, engaging with the community. These are things that not every person is going to get. This is an experience where certain skills are going to be learned. Resume builders. I mean, all in all, it's a great experience, but my biggest thing for you is that we will never not need the trades, and this is bringing such positive attention towards the trades in the auto program, and that's really important for Shelton High School and for every town. So that's all I have. My husband is a driver, and he can give you his experience.
Hi, I'm Ethan, and this is what I got and learned from being a driver on the team. It teaches a lot of skills, and a lot of those skills will have to do with real-life situations and especially getting a job. Number one is teamwork. When we were on that team, it wasn't just one person. It wasn't just about me. It wasn't just about the other racers. It was about us as a group and learning to work together and solve problems, bouncing ideas off of each other, just like if we're at a job. Whether it looks like it or not, you're going to be a part of a team. It helps you working under pressure, problem solving in that situation. We had to deal with time the whole time because we're going on the track. We have to come off the track, which counts against us as in laps and the time that we lost. And so we had to get quicker and quicker and quicker at what we were doing, which consisted of like driver changes, doing the gas in a safe way, fueling the car, and then working on the car. And so working under that pressure and being able to stay calm and collected and do it in a manageable time, and also increasing our time, less time on it, and getting faster and faster at it. It teaches good leadership skills because we have to learn to work with others and also guide each other. It wasn't just, Mr. Byer wasn't just telling us what to do the whole time. He left it up to us for the most part as of, hey, okay, this is happening to the car, what's happening? Okay, it's overheating. How can we come to a solution on this? Who is going to do that? You're going to do that while all of us are doing this. And then also listening to others in that situation of, okay, if I don't know what to do, you tell me what to do. You help me with this situation, you help me understand and get through it. Problem solving is another one, coming up with solutions, so like I was just talking about earlier, figuring out what to do in a time-sensitive area. And then I think that's it. So, thank you.
Thank you so much. Questions or comments?
Do you have any questions or comments for us?
Well, I would love to say that both of you did an excellent job with your presentation and just the articulation of everything that you were doing. That was very impressive, your presentation skills. Are there any questions or comments from the rest of the board?
It's been no secret that I support this program, but I would like to say congratulations. Keep up the good work. You're learning far more lessons than even your teachers talk to me about. So very proud of you. Thank you.
Go ahead, Richard.
I just want to say that I think that what you guys did was really cool, and you deserve all the support. That's awesome.
Thank you. I guess now is as good a time as any to come clean and be fully honest. This project of mine had absolutely nothing to do with racing or cars. It was all about having these former students use the skills that we had taught them in high school and put them to the ultimate test. The pressure, the time constraint, competition, and to show off and learn that they have what it takes to do anything. At 20 and 21 years old, if I can race a race car and win an award in a national race, what can't I do in life? That was my actual goal, to build their self-confidence.
Well, great job.
I'm sorry, go ahead.
I was going to say great job.
Thank you. So we have a couple certificates for you from the school board. So this is a certificate of appreciation proudly presented to Ethan Payment for outstanding work and dedication to the Shelton High School Automotive Department and excellent performance with the 24 Hours of Lemon. Congratulations. Thank you. Find the right one for you, Kristen. I swear you have one. Oh, and Kristen, thank you very much. Thank you. One final note in closing, we'd love to have you stop by our shop anytime. I have my advanced classes in the afternoon. We work on projects similar to this. Welcome the board members, superintendent, any of the administration that likes to see these kids in action. Stop by. Thank you.
Thank you very much.
I'll just add on a little comment here. I remember when your email first came through with the idea, and I was very excited about it from the get-go, so I'm glad to see that it did go through, and Matt had given us a couple of updates about the race. I think you were there.
I got in trouble for saying that.
Oh, beat him to the punch. So congratulations to everybody. I'm glad it worked out so well.
All right. Next up is the Mountain View Elementary School's improvement plan.
All right, thank you, Board President Davidson and our fellow directors for allowing Alex and I the opportunity to share a little glimpse into the exciting work that our staff and students are doing this year at Mountain View. Literacy is our priority, and we are working hard to help our students build a love of reading and to begin to see themselves as readers. You will notice we have 2 school improvement goals, and both of them are aligned with our strategic plan. So goal 1 is aligned directly to high quality literacy instruction, and our second goal is will be aligned with priority 4, which is safe and welcoming environments. Our goal this year is to see our current 3rd grade students increase to 42% of our students meeting standard on the English Language Arts Smarter Balanced Assessment in the spring. And that would be up from 35% of our students who passed last year. So we want to share with you what we're doing to help our students reach that goal. Next slide. Now, those of you who know me, I could speak all night about the amazing thing happening in our building, so I'm going to make this really quick. The first slide here really talks a lot about the priority 1, which is around high quality literacy instruction. So you walk into our classrooms and you are going to see beautiful classroom libraries in every single one of our classrooms. They are welcoming and inviting for our students. Our students have been provided opportunities to learn how to interact in these libraries, how to find the types of books that they're looking for, how to care for the books. You will also see that every student in our school gets a minimum of 30 minutes a week of what we call word study, which is where we're working on phonological awareness, phonics, decoding. We're also working on high frequency words, and up here you will see a beautiful example of one of our high frequency word charts. You would also find those in every single classroom. And our teachers are using that with their students daily in fun ways, such as games and activities. We have students learning how to read independently and learning how to read together. So you'll see some anchor charts up here on the wall, up here on our screen, that talk to the kids about how to read to self and how to buddy read. And a great example down here on the bottom, EEKK, came from one of our 2nd grade classrooms. It means elbow to elbow, knees to knees. So the anchor charts are developed with the students, and it helps to share ways that they can use these strategies in the classroom. And then you'll see down there are some students who are actually doing elbow to elbow and knees to knees. And in the very bottom corner, this was something that our 4th grade students did. They were so excited about the books that they were reading that they asked their teacher if they could write reviews for other students. So when the students came to the classroom library, they wouldn't have to just begin looking through 500 books. So this is an example of a 4th grade student who just finished reading the book Shiloh. The student gave it a 10 stars and said it was a fabulous book to read, and our teachers are collecting those into a little booklet so kids can go up if they're not sure what they want to read about or what genre. They can look at some of the reviews that their fellow students have given them. Next slide. All right. We're also spending a lot of time in our readers workshop with our students, working on responding to what they're reading and also conferring with our students. So these are some examples. You'll see in the bottom corner and in the right corner, top corner, these are some students who are responding to reading about what they're reading about. In the bottom is an example of 4th grade. So a student in their reader's journal went in and they retold the beginning, middle, and ending of their story. And in the top corner is one of our English language learners, and he retold his story in pictures. Our teachers confer, so at least one time a week, every student is having a conferring activity with their teacher, some more often depending on needs. And the teachers are talking with the students about what they're reading, and they're tying it to the lesson, the mini lesson that they taught. So for example, I just was in a classroom this week, and the teacher was asking the students about character and setting. So you're now in chapter 3. Is there any new characters that have been introduced in this chapter, or has the setting changed in any way? And they're having really authentic conversations with the students about the things that they're reading about. Across the top is an example of a 1st grade writing lesson. So the students were, that week's focus was learning how to do how-to books, and it just so happened to snow. So the teacher thought, what a great way. I know my students and I know what they're passionate and interested in. So they went out and they began to build a little tiny snowman. And as they did that, the students all had a clipboard and they were writing or drawing pictures of the steps that they took in creating that snowman. Went back to the class. You'll see in the fifth picture over, the student drew pictures of little steps, and then they took that the next step and wrote how-to stories on how to build a snowman. And the next week they came back and they began to write how-to stories about things they had high interest in that they knew how to teach other kids, such as how to make a peanut butter and jelly sandwich. Thank you. Next. Our second goal, again, is aligned to priority 4, safe and welcoming environments. We decided this year to focus on attendance. So our goal is that our students would come to school 100% of the time, but we're going to start with measuring at 92%, which would be up from 87.6% last June. I'm excited to say that through first trimester, we were at 90.2. We did see a little bit of a dip in the month of November. Like a lot of people, we have a lot of illnesses out there. While attendance is important, a lot of our work has actually been around safe and welcoming environments, because we believe that if our students feel safe at school and they feel welcome, they'll want to come and they'll be there. I'm going to pass it over real quick to Mr. Brown-Smith, our assistant principal.
All right, so a big part of my job is to make sure that I provide that safe and warm and welcoming environment. So next slide, we'll see some of the different things that we're doing to create that environment. Up in the top left, it talks about morning meetings. Morning meetings is what we do every single day for 10 or 15 minutes, and it's in every classroom. And it's a time for the classrooms to build community. We've also got a great curriculum that goes with it too, so that we can ask questions of the kids. They'll get a chance to answer those questions. And that's one way that we're making Mountain View a warm and welcoming place. The next one you'll notice, off to the right of that, is the weekly confetti winners. We hand out confetti for good behavior to our students, and then at the end of the week, we draw, and those kids that get drawn are our confetti winners. They come up, they get a cool little bracelet, they get their picture taken, it's put on Facebook, they get a pencil, and we make it a big deal for them too. And then next we have a new curriculum, Kelso's Choices, which is a curriculum that's being taught by our specialists, and it's to help our students make better choices. So if there's a conflict at a recess, they've now got some ways to kind of handle some of those situations. So we'll talk a little bit more about that, and you'll see some of the posters that are outside for that. But that's being taught quite a bit with our students. We also have monthly recognition winners. So this is a picture of our Be Kind students. So once a month, we pick either Be Kind, Be Safe, and Work Hard, which is our motto. For this one, we chose kids that were kind, and then each teacher nominates students that are Be Kind, and we make a big hoorah here in the gym, and we bring in the parents and just celebrate those students who are being kind or being safe. And then we've also noticed that at the playground, we've had some issues on the playground, so we started having recess incentives. And so you'll kind of see that in the bottom left, where we are rewarding those classes who are lining up quietly, who are just having good behavior, and then we're rewarding those classes with an extra recess at the end of the month on those PLC days, and giving them some sort of treat or something like that. The one I'm most excited about is our morning greetings. We really pushed this year to have each teacher greeting kids when they come to school. So when they go up to the classroom, we have our teachers at the front door greeting the kids, giving them a high five, a handshake, a hug, or whatever it is, but they're meeting them right at the door before they come in and just kind of building that relationship right there before they get to class. The last one is our lunch bunch. So teachers nominate kids, and during the PLC days, they go up, it's put on by our specialists, and they get to celebrate, play games. We've got hoop shoots and other cool things, but it's just kind of a celebration for their good behavior. So those are some of the things that we've been doing to create that safe and welcoming environment.
All right. This last slide also goes right along with safe and welcoming environments. It talks a little more about what we're doing around being culturally and linguistically welcoming. So one of the things we did is we are in the process of changing out all of our Mountain View Viking signs. So you'll see one behind you, which is our old one, and our new ones are over here. So they are now in English, in Spanish, and they're also in picture form. So whether we are talking about one of our students who might be nonverbal, a student who might be slightly dysregulated and can't use their words, or one of our English language learners, instead of using words, they now can use pictures to help them understand what the expected behavior is. You'll also notice down here on the bottom, you'll see like our little Kelso's Choice wheel. We also put out a playground communication board, and we have had a lot of success with this. So any student can go up and say, I want to use the bathroom, I want to play on the slide, I want to find a friend. So they've been taught how to use it. It's kind of a gathering place where kids can come up and meet each other, but it's, again, a way that all children can interact. We've done a lot of work the last 2 years around what we call our community of practice, which is inclusionary practices. And so for us, it's making sure that every child is included regardless of their language, their disability, or their gender. We also this year made a decision that we were going to really try to make sure that we put in some cultural pieces into our PTSO events, because we found that we were not having a lot of our Latino populations coming to our events. So in October, we had our movie event, and we decided that because it really coincided with Hispanic Heritage Month, that we chose a movie that our students, our Latino students, selected that represented that, you know, what their culture is. We served different types of food that were more culturally representative of their culture. We actually had one of our EL students, our EL teachers actually made that really authentic Mexican cantaloupe juice that we gave out to everybody. We had a singer here, a local girl from Olympic Middle School came and performed and was doing some singing while the kids were coming in. And then we had some baskets. It was probably one of our largest turnouts. We had about 250 students here. And then this is just a picture of one of our basket winners that we handed out 3 baskets, like thank you for coming kind of thing. It was a little raffle. Last month, we were able to have Shiloh Littleson. His son Pride is a 2nd grade student here. So he and his wife and their little girl came and they performed for us. It was wonderful. Our children got to experience not just the regalia associated with what they were doing, but also just traditional song and dance. And they're so excited they can't wait to come back again next year. And then also parent-teacher conferences. We had 95% attendance, and we had both Mom and Concabal and Spanish translators here. So it was the first time ever where every parent had somebody at the table that could help translate in a real authentic conversation. That's what we've presented tonight. If you have any questions, we would love to answer them.
Thank you very much. Are there any questions or comments from the board?
I don't have any questions. I love the idea of the book review for several reasons. One, it gives kids kind of a shortcut as to what book they might want to read, but it also tells us that we pick good books or not. The tech manual on the snowman, I didn't learn to write a tech manual until college, so good job pushing the kids. That's just a cool thing. Your motto, be kind, be safe, work hard, just be kind is kind of what I keep telling people. You'll hear it again tonight, I'm sure. So just that, and then your morning greeting, you know, these kids are coming from every situation under the sun, and to have that handshake and a smile, man, strong work. Thank you.
And I'd also like to add congratulations on all the positive things going on at Mountain View. And all of those things are a piece, and they're really important. I'm glad you profiled it. And it takes a whole school to make changes like that. So I'm glad to see that it's a whole effort. And it shows all the thought process that goes into planning for success. So good job, Mountain View.
Thank you.
Yeah, I just want to say thank you very much. And I love seeing the difference in the signs. I can see them, the one on the back of the wall there, and how that is inclusive to all different types of students. So just like what Matt and Carla are saying, that you've done a lot of work here, and it does take the whole school. And I just really commend you on the culture that you've created here in your school and how everybody does work together for these things for the sake of the students. So thank you very much. Unless there's any other comments this evening? Yeah,
Thank you so much for your time.
All right, we're at the last item in reports and recognitions, and it is the state of the district with Superintendent Jesse. Oh, I'm sorry, I'm jumping ahead. I've made a check mark. We're not at the last item. We're at item, Brenda, how could I forget? 5.04, we've got the 2021-2022 annual financial report.
Good evening, President Davidson and Shelton School Board. I'm pleased to be here to present the 21-22, I'm working in 3 years still right now, I apologize, financial statements. As you know, this is a huge document that we put together. I had Allison put in your Dropbox today the actual document, and it's not nice reading material, but if you would like to review that, you're more than welcome to, and ask questions later on that. But that's the official OSPI document that does get approved by the ESD, and then OSPI has approved it also. So we're going to see if I can make this work, Scott. Okay. The Washington State Accounting Manual dictates how we do all of our accounting in Shelton School District. It designates what funds we use and the account code structure we use. Shelton School District has 6 different funds that we use. General fund is all of your daily operations that you do, everything in your school buildings, your buses that run, food services, maintenance and operations, CTE, everything flows through there that is the day-to-day. Associated Student Body is run by your students. They have student councils at the secondary levels in all of our schools that run that for their activities and their clubs. And then Debt Service Fund is where the county collects tax dollars on the bond we passed in 2017 that pays for the new construction, like Mountain View Elementary here. We ran that bond, and those tax dollars go straight into the Debt Service Fund, and we pay out of that twice a year to pay out on our bonds. Capital projects is where the proceeds of those bonds get deposited to. That's where we write the checks to pay for the construction that happens. And then Transportation Vehicle Fund can only be used to purchase school buses. So the state funds that every August 31st, and it's based on depreciation of your current fleet that you have that goes into there. We have one additional fund that is not reported on here, that's the Private Purpose Trust Fund, and that has the 3 scholarship funds that Shelton School District manages. So this is some history of our fund balance. You do have a board policy that has a goal for a 9% fund balance in place right now. As you can see, we dipped down in 21-22, and we are only at 2.1% with a 1.5 million fund balance. In doing some research to find what happened there in that, one of the big hits we took was due to the COVID protocols of having staff out for certain periods of time. We budgeted $411,000 for certificated and classified substitutes. We ended up spending $1.6 million in that, and the state only funds $101,000 of that. So that took a big hit in our fund balance. It basically came out of there to cover those funds. So that was one of the big pieces we noticed as I was digging through things. We had some cleanup in accounts payable that we were trying to play catch up on, and we're doing better on that now. But that was A lot of the COVID costs, the increased costs of things, increased food costs, it just hit us basically on COVID. So that's a lot of what you're seeing on that. We do have a plan. Superintendent Jesse and I have been meeting to at least double this at the end of this current fiscal year, 22-23. We're hoping to come in at $3 million or above. We're going to start fine-tuning through and setting aside dollars so that we can start increasing this back up because we don't want it to stay this low. So the next one is our enrollment trend. As you can see, we still went down a little bit this year in our average daily enrollment or average monthly enrollment. Last year, we ended 16.62 FTE above the 4,125 that we budget, and this year we were 14.14 FTE above that 4,125. That generates about $124,000 above budget, so it wasn't really much difference in where we budgeted. So this year we are up again, so hopefully we can maintain that for the whole year and keep that average enrollment, and that will help us a lot, and increasing our fund balance even. So now we're going to get into the detail here. So here is our general fund revenue history. As you can see, the little chart below, it pretty much shows the same steady of what happens, except for in 21-22, you see our state funding is down, but our federal funding is up. So, and with the federal dollars, there's a lot of strings attached to that. Plus, you have to spend that money, and then you wait your 30 days to get it reimbursed. So that also hits your cash flow and fund balance. So it's kind of tricky to manage. Some of the things that went down in the state funding was levy equalization went down this past year by about $400,000. LAP was down a little, highly capable was down a little, so those were a few things in the state funding that went down. You see a decrease also this past year in our non-local tax dollars. That is donations and fees. That was down. We didn't receive as many donations to the school district this last year as we had the previous year. And then the other category is your non-high districts paying in, also our co-ops that we run, which is special services and transportation co-op, and then food services also supplies food to Southside School District. So we charge for that, but our non-high collection was up in that category there. So that's how the revenue comes in. And then the expenditures in the accounting manual, there's lots of ways to dissect it. You have, and Matt loves this, an object code that tells you if it's supplies, if it's contracted services, salaries, that type of thing. So this is how this one is broken down. You will see that our salaries are up quite a bit from the prior year, and a lot of that is the substitute costs that we had in there. And of course, we had some COLA in there too for cost of living increases for staff, but the salaries are quite a bit there. Another thing that hit us on those substitute costs are that if you have a substitute that is regular and works over 630 hours, we have to put them on the insurance. And that is $12,400 a year for each employee that hits that $630. So that creates an impact too. 630 hours, I apologize. So our total costs are $72,880,174. But as you can see, with the bar chart too, the salaries and benefits are up, and then the other categories pretty much stay the same. Those don't really change much from year to year. So then one of the other ways you can split this out is by program, and that's in the accounting manual also. You can see it goes by basic ed, special education, CTE is the career and technical. Compensatory ed is mostly your state and federal grants that are in there. You've got your Title I, LAP, all of that type of thing are in there. Support services, those are basically district office, those types of things, maintenance and operations that support out into the building. Community services, what is in there is the auditorium, your swimming pool costs. We have the Family Resource Center that's located over here at the ASB 300. You also transfer any transportation costs that are not to from costs, get moved over into that community services at your year-end close. And then other instruction is your high cap goes in there and some other grant money that's in there. And of course, ESSER dollars are still flowing in here, which are federal, that we have to spend out and then get reimbursed also. So that is how your categories get split out there. And then the last way to split it out is an activity code. And so you can see in this pie chart, the most of what we do gets put into instructional costs. Your instructional support over here on the left, that's 2.7 million, is our professional development costs. Any instructional technology equipment we buy for students, and any curriculum costs go into that category. School food services, of course, is our breakfast and lunch programs. People transportation is our buses running, and just because we don't have enough bus drivers, part of that funding is we only get paid for the routes we run. It is based on your mileage and your ridership. So the routes we're not running, we're not getting money for those. So I just wanted to be clear on that. Maintenance and operations is 4.2 million last year. Utilities, insurance, and security, our insurance costs did go up when we built the new buildings, and we still kept the old Mountain View building on, so it went up almost $200,000 for that cost. Utilities were also up this past year. Information systems is our district-wide networking system. Our technology department, part of their salary gets coded to the information system per the state accounting manual because it's district network that runs the whole district. And the other part gets coded just to a technology code. Again, public activities is our transportation that's non-to from, the Family Resource Center, Shelton High School Auditorium, and the pool. And then administration is the school board budget, superintendent budget, human resources, business office, public relations, and then all of our administrators in the departments get categorized there. So that is all I have for financial statements. Do you have any questions?
Thank you very much for the report. I have a much greater appreciation in the last couple of years realizing when state and federal payments come in and how that doesn't always line up with what's going out.
Yes.
And the juggle that there is to make sure we're, you know, how you juggle that is, I can appreciate the effort that you do with all of that. I don't have any questions myself. Do any board members have any other questions regarding budget at this time or the presentation?
I will comment, I was just contemplating, when I first came on the board, I think we were looking at $48 million budget.
About it, yeah. It's increased quite a bit.
Yeah.
You know, the state and the federal programs have created it to be quite a bit larger, but yes, it has. You don't want to know what it was when I started working here. So.
And all the costs have just gone up.
Yep.
You know, so I was just mentally contrasting some of that. But thank you. I've seen your presentations before and have asked a lot of questions in the past. Starting to get some of that. So, and thanks to WASDA for some of their accounting and budgeting 101 programs. So, thank you.
Yes, and I was going to say, I think that we brought back some of those WASDA
did,
accounting books, so if there are, if any of us need a refresher on that at any point in time, because it is a specific coding for school districts on how they're doing all of this as she's gone through it, it's complex. So there are, WASDA has done some wonderful training, and we do have those books down at the district office if you ever want to deep dive into accounting. But you always break it out very nicely. I'm happy to hear that we're looking at increasing that budget, because that's something that has been a goal of ours, but obviously there have been impacts over the last few years that have caused that to go down.
Yeah, I think I'd just add, I think increasingly, if you look at, the next 5 years, if it continues on this trend, and then we're really funded mostly by state and federal programmatic dollars that have strings and they're attached to specific activities, that's not a gen fund. I mean, you're getting a really hard time to have an end fund balance, because you can't end fund balance that at all.
No.
You have to spend those dollars. About half or about 70% of those dollars you can do 1-year carryovers, but those again are restricted. They're not going to fund any of your general education classroom. You know what a lot of, I think, community members would think of. And so as that proportion goes, that's just harder, because you can only use those. Those are where your more discretionary dollars can go. At maintenance effort, all that. Those are things that fixing buildings. It's just your general operations, and that is what covers with that general fund. So the more that goes that way, and that's some of the issues with McCleary. It's just going to get tighter and tighter for not just us, but other school districts that are increasingly reliant on state and federal programmatic dollars to fund you, as opposed to, again, end fund, and then the increase with inflation that has to come from there. It doesn't come from the state and federal, no federal increases there.
Well, and let me ask a question. So with some of those programs, whether they're state or federal, that then you have to use within the year that it's given or the time frame that they specify, are those things that are implemented that then need to be ongoing that are then funded ourselves? Or are they, I mean, because that's what I'm thinking, usually they're used to implement something that then the funding doesn't continue.
Yeah, I don't know if you want to, most of those state and federal grants, I'll just use Title I as an example. We try to maximize up to and maximize the carryover for the following year. Those types of grants we typically get from year to year, but there is potential ESSER is going to go away. We will have a stop there where we will need to figure that out.
ESSER is a big challenge for us. So if you think about that, those are taxpayer dollars. You want to do smart things with taxpayer dollars. You don't want to just take it and go, like, hey, we're going to make up for learning losses. That was going to magically happen over one summer. Right. Those are multi-year. The problem is, like, when you want to do that during the school year, you have to fund positions for those particular activities, and it doesn't just happen over the course of 2 years. And so then you want to build that out over multiple years, and then when that cliff happens, that we have to spend all those dollars at the end of fiscal 23, 24, then, you can't, you would have to either incur those costs or you cut those particular positions or services and/or services.
All right, thank you for the explanation. Are there any other questions? I know we've got a lot of things going on in this school board meeting tonight, so if there aren't, well, thank you very much for that.
Both of these will be posted on the website for
Okay.
the public to review. So.
Okay, great. Thank you very much. Now we truly are in the last item of the reports and recognition section. We've got the state of the district with Superintendent Jesse.
Great. Again, good evening, Board President Davidson, other board directors, students, community members, and staff. So he's pulling up my slide deck. It's pretty heavy. Got a lot of megabytes on this. Awesome. Thank you, Scott. So this is an opportunity to present to the public around what is the state of the district. So Brenda was able to present some of the financial findings. This is really about overall, what are the services that we're providing, what's going on for the district, so that folks can get a good snapshot of that, so they know where, hey, what is going on for that, what are you doing for our students, and what's the application of those dollars specifically to what activities that are happening in our schools. We get those glimpses as we have our schools present, like Mary did here for Mountain View this evening, along with Alex. So I'll be highlighting some of those things as I go through this presentation. This is just the agenda that I'll be covering. I'll be kind of moving fairly quickly through some of these items, but I just want to highlight some specific things that I think are really essential for everyone to know, because these are big things that will actually lead to the better outcomes for our students. With that, Scott, I'm good. Moving on. So these are some of the strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats that we face. It's not exhaustive by any measure. Some of the things I just want to really highlight here for you this evening are things that are getting a lot of attention and resource. Underneath the strengths, you see the development of college and career pathways. We're doing a lot of deep digging, and we got Gretchen here. Some of the things that we're doing around our academies that are at Shelton High School. What are some of the things that we're doing for Cedar around project-based learning, and then choice, because a lot of the students who are been matriculated either with the Shelton School District or the surrounding areas, a lot of our students that are credit deficient end up at choice. They go through there. And I've gone now through the data many times over this last couple months. Why? Because again, that's what we're trying to do, is do better for our college and career pathways so that we can have kids most certainly get their 6 credits at the end of 9th grade, so they're on track to graduate, and also the pathways. I think it was really great around the automotive pathway is one of those examples, that there's some uniqueness actually about that pathway, as long as JROTC, is because those things start at your freshman year. And so you really need to kind of have those pathways. How are they building out? What are their experiences we can expect at our junior high? And then what are some things that we'd want to look at about transition? Because it's been about 5 or 6 years since the onset of the academies. COVID happened, and so now we're making some adjustments. I think I just want to have one piece around that, is also just on the pathways of where we have a strength is, we're starting up some of our on-site experiences, so shadowing and internships. We are extending additional efforts and resources towards building those out with our businesses in the South Puget Sound region to align to the pathways, right? So it's one thing to get the coursework, it's another thing to go out there and have those experiences. One of our weaknesses for us is just around our overall academic outcomes. Something I highlight, you'll see that in the slides. We know that, when you only have a third of our students at 3rd grade meeting standard in ELA, we have a lot more work to do, because that is part about college and career readiness. If you can't read and you can't write, it's going to make it really hard to get a job. Opportunities for us, we did talk about a little around the funding and ESSER, but we've had an opportunity for us to really take our activities that we have in the strategic plan, move those through the school improvement plans that we have at the schools, and then we are out doing what we call continuous improvement, really monitoring those activities, the things that they're doing, and then adjusting on those to better meet the needs of the school. I think Mountain View did an excellent job this evening. If we say we're doing instruction, we got things around literacy, how's it working, how are students writing happening, and how is that leading to different outcomes? And then the last one is threats. We have a number of those. Any school district would. But in particular, I think our area around data management, we've done a lot of data cleanup this year. Folks, we've had some antiquated systems. Some of our data entry is not providing necessarily all the valid and reliable data we want. So this is a year of digging into that. The great news, I think, with that is also we're starting to use data to drive decisions here on a consistent basis. Some of that needs to be kind of some of the condensing of some of those data points so that we know which ones are more of our drivers and other ones are using something that is less lagging and more formative on an ongoing basis. Great, next slide. We had a number of measurable wins. We 0 school closed last year. I think that's pretty incredible. This year we've done a good job too, even despite some of the snow. Had some late starts. They're kind of a pain. I know they are for our families. But again, as I always like to say, people would be surprised about how many families rely on getting a meal with the Shelton School District. They come in, they're hungry, keeping our doors open, in addition to the other safety measures we want for them. And it's a great place for our kids to feel, get a lot of not only an education, but to make connections. And also that we, as part of the school year, had our classroom positions filled. I think that's one of the things that we did really well last year is we were really planning out our budget and staffing plan. We're making some adjustments this next year. We're going to move up a little bit more in our hiring at an earlier stage. We're going to have to take a little bit more risk because we need the best teachers we can. The longer we wait, they get hired by somebody else. We're not in a position to let that go. So we already know historical trends for our ability to fill positions. So we're going to use some smart data, again, data to drive our decisions, again, to support, again, one of our priorities, which is effective teachers and leaders. Great. Next. This is the org chart. You can see that I'm at the top. I have my senior leadership team here for every board meeting. So Marianne Marshall, who's over not only instructional services or teaching and learning, what some people call it, but also the schools. Then we have Brenda, who's up here for finance, but she also does operations. So she's leading, anywhere facilities and maintenance, food, technology, transportation. Linda Arnold over here, who does human resources, which is its own animal, truly. When you have almost 800 employees, trying to balance all their needs, all the questions, personnel reports, people coming and going, a lot of switching, a lot of part-time people here. That's you got to stay on top of it. And if you ever seen Linda work, you'd understand what I was talking about. We have a communications specialist, and so I know a lot of beloved by some of the board, and as well as the staff. Katie Diamond's coming back on the beginning of the new year. And then, as I mentioned, we have Tara Richards around our data manager. We're doing a lot of data dives, cleaning some things up, but also an opportunity to have some dashboards allow us to make better decisions. As I've highlighted, some celebrations like decrease in discipline, but also trying to manage some of the attendance because there's a lot of variability due to the number of kids out sick the last couple months. Next slide, please. So we have a strategic plan. Took all last year to build this particular strategic plan. A lot of input that we had from community members for this. We heard them. Student voice was at the center of this. I know it's something with our student representatives. It's so important for us to figure out what are we doing well and what do we need to change. Some of the things were, hey, when I was in elementary school, I felt really respected and safe. It was great, but as I get older, not so safe and not so welcoming. And most certainly high schoolers do not like to get barked at by teachers. I heard that. Some of the things they also mentioned is I like to be prepared more. I need to have better skills in reading and math and writing, because when I get to the high school courses, they're tough. I need some more of those skills. That would really help me out. Pathway work, kind of that balance, like, hey, give me a choice, both college and career, but I want to make that choice. I don't want to just be driven on one end, right? So those are some of the major comments that we had. We need to reflect that in our strategic plan. You can hear that, I think, this evening, and then also by not just this presentation, but other presentations to accentuate that. Over 570 people helped fill out the survey, and over 1,000 people had input on this particular strategic plan. It is our community strategic plan. Schools are at the center of the Shelton, and here in Mason County. A lot of people rely on it. The things that we're doing to best serve not only now, but also the future. Next slide. So we have 4 priority areas. I'm going to go through these fairly quickly. What are some of the things that you can look for right now? I feel a little bit, I'm coming a little bit late in the game here. Again, Mary went over some of these things, but it's a radical different than what we were doing before in literacy. I can't stress enough about literacy skills. Without literacy, you can't really have that crave for inquiry because you're not going to be able to read all the information. You're not going to be able to question, and I heard that from one of our student reps, Richard, is what is the source of the information? Reading, speaking for yourself, being able to debate, those are strong things. Those are the things that we're going over with our students to not only write things like technical manuals, but as also, again, things like interest in different genres. What is author's craft? What are some of the books I like? Right? Most adults go, I like certain kind of books and I don't like other ones. We want to be able to give a broad range for our students to experience that, and we do that because we have 500 or 600 new books in every single classroom K through 6. We're lifting off this next year in 7-12 literacy, so we'll be getting a lot more books for our junior high and our high schoolers coming up, and our ELA teachers will be the ones helping to drive that process. Next slide, please. College and career readiness. This year, again, we've really did a lot of work around orientation, kids coming in. How do I navigate high school was a big comment by our students. It's hard to figure out what you're doing. So inventory and planning, what's my pathway? And so some of our work in this area for next year will be around when they come in and having a freshman orientation that lasts for a couple trimesters and not just a couple days. What is the careers I do? How do I navigate hard social situations? What do I do when I go to the bathroom and a bunch of kids are vaping? That's a hard situation. Hard to navigate that. But those are some of the situations that students are going to face. So how do we teach on that? How do we handle those situations? What do I do about tough friendships? What am I looking for my career? What are my interests and skill set? That's literally some of the work we're going to dive into so that our curriculum matches that when we have incoming freshmen. And then, of course, there's some of the work on the academies. We keep trying to manage that because it's not only predicated on what industry is doing now and the skill sets they need, but we have to match that with student interest. We can try to have certain courses and certain pathways and experiences, but if the kids aren't really interested in it, we're going to flop on that as well. So we're working on that right now. Next slide, please. Investing in effective educators and leaders outside of the safety of our staff and our students, this is the second most important thing we do. Who we hire and how we support them. Really great teachers and leaders will take us to help achieve our goals. I'm out in classrooms every Thursday all day long. I'm at the schools, I'm working on it, I'm seeing what's going on in the classrooms, meeting with educators, meeting with leaders, our support staff, so that I can figure out where are our needs, because it's our feedback loop, right? It's not just a top-down decisions, but it's also about what do you need so we can switch in how we're doing business. This year in particular, I'm very proud of our efforts to provide mentoring for all novice teachers. So if you're a teacher in your first or second year, you're getting coaching. Coaching is really essential, and it's the best way to provide professional development for adults and specifically teachers, because it isn't unique to your own situation and your own growth. Having a tremendous amount of growth on that. I was just in a classroom last week. I saw a teacher at the beginning of the year. Now I saw her classroom again. You wouldn't believe how great that classroom was for her. I know it's something I already mentioned to the board. I'd put my kid in that class, and she's a first-year teacher. Not everybody's going to say that. It's really, really amazing growth for that teacher. But I also know she's getting a lot of coaching from a principal and also one of our TOSAs. Next slide, please. Safe and welcoming environment. So again, where are students coming in? They're getting their orientation. We're going over expectations. And then we're using data to drive our decisions where we need to get on top of situations as they come up. We're also working to have culturally and linguistically welcoming environments. We've had a number of activities at the schools and also sponsored by the district. It's been very well attended events. So I think Mary was accentuating that. We've hosted a number by various departments, so we'll continue to do that. It's great for us to make those connections because the events that we have are reflective of the diversity of our community. Next slide, please. One of the key things as we think about organizations and coherence, a lot of people go, oh, you got a strategic plan, but how does that affect? Well, the strategic plan, every single department in our school district has goals aligned to the strategic plan, directly aligned to it. They meet with me. We meet on every Monday and we talk about it. And then, like I said, we go out to schools. What are you doing on your school improvement plan? What are the activities you're doing? What adjustments do we need to make? Part of that is a feedback loop that goes back to central office, but it's also about how's that looking for student success. When we do follow the plan, we make adjustments as we need to, in adjustment to specific indicators of student success, the more likely we are to reach it. Next slide, please. Brenda already went over the budget. just in case if somebody in the community was really interested specifically usually around what's the enrollment at some of our schools, what are free and reduced lunch look like, so qualifying for free or reduced breakfast or lunch. In particular, our funding, some of that state and federal dollars is contingent on those things. When we average about 70% free and reduced lunch for the entire district. And then the certificated staff and the classified staff that we have out at our particular schools. That can vary just a little bit. Haven't had a ton of variability on enrollment at any of the particular schools. Bordeaux was up a little bit more on our projections. A little bit for Mountain View as well, in particular those two schools, since our enrollment projections at the beginning of the school year. I think the thing to look forward in the future, in particular, is that as we look at our capacity, in particular to Bordeaux and Mountain View, if that keeps climbing, where are the classrooms going to happen? So that's something that we'll be continuing to look forward to. We do have some ideas, but again, something for us to really look at, and we'll be continuing to monitor that very closely, literally as we look at enrollment projections. Next slide, please. So I just want to go over some quick data points. In particular here, ELA proficiency. This is on the state standardized assessment, particularly on the state standards. So you're assessing what the state says that you are meeting standard in English language arts. Here for third grade, you can see it's 25.4% of the students last year that were in third grade met standard. The numbers are down across the state, about 10%. We're within that zone. And as I like to say, we've got to go up. It's not an option. It's not something we should give ourselves excuses. We really do need to put the pedal to the metal and get moving on it. You can see a lot of the presentations that have been coming to the board, the activities that we're doing everything we can to move that. When kids can read, they can access other content. Grades 7 and 10 are up there for you to see. And then we'll move over to math. So for math proficiency, we got the data points up here for the state averages. You can see some trends going downward. For us, it was less in third grade, but we had a pretty significant drop at 7th grade. So sometimes these things are driven by cohorts. They're not always just the same year in, year out. Attendance in the fall, that's not a surprise to anybody during COVID. You know, when you have to be out for up to 10 plus days, you're going to have a decrease in enrollment. But as you can hear again, Mary today, one of her goals is attendance, and so she's back up, and that will obviously contribute to the bottom line. Next slide, please. Discipline, our rates were going down pretty precipitously. 2019, that's a pretty good sign. It was most of a school year. 2020 is not anything to really look at, but coming back this last year, we're kind of back up and above average. I think a lot of manifestation, the behaviors we saw are a lot of a manifestation of some of the things about kids being at home for extended periods of time. Not a good idea. Not a good idea. Okay, next slide. Graduation, done a lot of work on this historically here in the Shelton School District, so I think there's some good signs here. I think some of the things that are going to cause us some challenge coming up here is that the rigor is going to go up, but you're still going to have students that didn't get all of that education during COVID, and those expectations the state sets don't diminish. So when we say we're going to have rigor and relevance, the state's going to continue to have the same bar, even though a little bit less of quality education and enough time on task for 2 years. That's why I really believe strongly we got to hit it hard, and then also we're going to do a lot of work over the summer like we did last summer. We're doing a lot of work over this next summer and the summer after that, and that's where we can use a lot of those ESSER dollars in addition to some of our programming during the school day. just want to conclude here, don't want to lose my audience. Just continue to use data to drive this. We do need to build our culture of rigor and relevance. I can't stress that. That's really what is going to help drive us. If we have low expectations for any student we give low expectations to, we might as well just turn to their parent or guardian and tell them, hey, just letting you know, I just don't expect too much of your student. I don't know if one parent or guardian wants to hear that. So that's something we're working on here. Coming to this, new to the Shelton community, that's something I probably heard a little too much. Not pointing any fingers, but I'm like, hey, we can do anything. We're going to welcome every single kid coming through, and we're going to believe they can do anything. The more we can feel that, doesn't put limits on them, doesn't put our limits on what we can do for them. We're, like I said, literacy model for 7-12, a lot of work, more information coming to board meetings around that. Super excited to lift that off. I met with the educators last week about this. They're super excited about getting some new materials. Some of it's quite outdated. Any of the required readings will come through the IMC, our Instructional Materials Committee, and will be voted on by the board. We'll have those books available to the public. And then last, as we kind of wrap up the year, we'll be doing a lot of celebrations, and then already looking forward to more revisions to the school improvement plans. I don't believe in doing school improvement plans in October and November of the year you're in. We plan ahead of time so that we can make appropriate activities so that we are ready to go day one when the students walk through the door. That's it. Then we'll wrap up, and I'll take any questions.
Do any board members have any questions for the superintendent? I know we all had your presentation, and I think it was pretty comprehensive when you gave it to us, so this was nice to see again, but we had that during a study session, which was very nice so that we could be appraised on all of these things. And I think we all do appreciate everything that's aligned to the strategic plan that is helping to support our student improvement in ELA and math. Those are both very important, and all of the supports. I do appreciate the summer program that we had last summer, as well as what is being planned to help with those gaps in learning that many students went through. Go ahead, Richard.
I was just curious. I know in the opportunities section of the SWOT analysis, it said, I don't remember exactly, but like expanding or like changing the plan for the 23-24 year. Is the plan going to be re-edited every academic year, or expanded upon, or revisited?
Yeah, you're talking about the strategic plan, Richard?
Yeah.
Yeah, that's a great question. So when you have a strategic plan, not all things can lift the first year, right? Like just like you're planning any kind of project, big project, or a remodel, or a car remodel, you're not going to do everything the minute one. So as you go, you might have to make some adjustments as you go through. And for us, we can't just start off like for ELA, for example. We only had the capacity to lift ELA pre-K through 6. As we rolled into this year will be a planning year so that when we get to the next school year, we'll be able to roll it out for 7-12. There was no capacity to be able to lift that much, get all those books, run that process within that short period of time. Does that make sense?
Yeah.
Yeah.
Thanks.
Great. Yep.
I have a question. When we're looking at the data for how kids perform on this Smarter Balance, and we see a declining score, are we also taking in consideration of our English language population is increasing at that same time? So we're getting a bigger challenge each year, because what I understand is we have growth in how many students need those services.
So here's the good news. Most of our students start in kindergarten here in the Shelton School District. So we have got a nice runway for kindergarten. If they get preschool, love to have better, more high-quality preschool available to everyone. But then we have kindergarten, first grade, second grade. So I got 3 years. By the time I get them to third grade, we should be getting most of our students to grade level. Now, they might not be at level, you would know, level 4, exceeding grade level, but to get across the line or very much approaching it. right? So if I don't get them for third grade, it should look like fourth grade, but you can see by our data at the later grades, it should have caught up by then. That's part of the challenge. So we might have some laggers, might not always look so great at third grade, but we can most certainly do better than 25%. Or 1/3 if you go back.
Are there any other questions? Nope. All right. Thank you very much for the report. I'm glad that this could be presented to the public as well, too.
Thank you.
All right, moving on to the consent agenda. We've got the proposed minutes from the last meeting, personnel report, a variety of different warrants. Are there any questions, or is there a motion?
I would make a motion to approve the consent agenda.
I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the consent agenda. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the consent agenda has passed. All right, now we will move into the discussion and action items. First up, we've got 7.01, the proposed resolution number 2207, accepting the building commissioning report for the Mountain View Elementary School replacement project. We've got Robert Herron to give us that tonight.
Good evening, Madam President and members of the board. I come before you with a boring bureaucratic request, and so this is related to the completion of the Mountain View School project in 2019. A part of that is a requirement of commissioning that the state requires to make sure that the building as designed performs as it's supposed to, related to HVAC and other systems in the building. That's a long process that's actually audited during construction by a third-party firm. In this case, it's Cezanne & Associates. And we coordinate weekly through that whole process and through construction and through completion, and then they come back over a year-long process to make sure the building is still continuing to operate as it is designed to. And so that process is now complete, and we have made the couple of minor changes that they requested after 1 year of operation and through the whole warranty process, and everything is working as designed. So we're really thankful for that process, and now as part of the closeout process with OSPI, we need to have this formalized through a board resolution and that the report exists, and so we can submit it to them. So we respectfully request approval.
All right, thank you very much. Did board members have any questions for Robert on this? Is there a motion?
I move that we accept the Building Commission report for the Mountain View Elementary School replacement project.
I would second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed resolution number 2207, accepting the building commissioning report for Mountain View Elementary School replacement project. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the proposed resolution has passed.
Thank you.
Thank you. All right, and Robert is staying up there because we have 7.02, which is proposed resolution number 2208, certifying the Mountain View Elementary School replacement project as complete. This is also recommended approval. Is that basically, do you have anything else to add to this?
Nope, except I will just mention that this is what we need in order to finalize the financial closeout for the project with OSPI.
And we all have those documents in our board packet. I'm sure you were looking through them just like I was. They were pretty extensive. Are there any questions for Robert at this time? Okay, is there a motion?
I would make a motion to approve Resolution 2208, certifying the Mountain View Elementary School replacement project as complete.
And I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to approve proposed resolution number 2208. All those in favor say aye.
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 All those opposed say no. Hearing none, proposed resolution 2208 has passed.
Thank you.
Thank you very much, Robert. All right. The last item in discussion and action items is revised policy number 3424, the opioid-related overdose reversal. And we have Superintendent Jesse, who will talk to us about that.
Great. Again, good evening, Board President Davison, other board directors, students, community members, and staff. Just addressing, in particular, Board Policy 3424 regarding opioid-related overdose reversal. We had passed this past year earlier, coming back and revisiting this conversation. It did have, just for our high school students, in this particular policy, we are proposing a revision to that to include middle and junior high schools as well. That is all the proposed change in language. Again, this is the ability to have any kind of trained personnel be able to distribute or apply, don't want to use the, where's the,
There we go. Naloxone.
thank you, Ivy.
Which is the medication within Narcan.
Yep. So for the particular medication for them, this again is, it's at the very end here, naloxone. Yeah. In particular, this provides that, so really just moving that to the board for these revisions.
All right. Do any board members have any questions?
I don't have any questions. I would like to, especially after hearing from the health department and sadly our county coroner, extend this to all of the schools, including the elementary, if we can do that. We have school nurses that are around. It's easy to teach. There's no side effects to it. Some would even advocate that it should be part of basic first aid training. And I think that it's important to be there. As a paramedic and a fire chief in this county also, I feel very strongly that I think that's a better move. It provides a school district with better coverage.
And we have had several experts weigh in on this. Is there any reasoning why we could not have it for all schools, or why? I know when we first looked at this policy, we all thought we had extended it down to the middle schools, and for some reason that hadn't happened. Is there any reason why we can't change that to all schools in the Shelton School District if the board is in agreement to doing that, and have that be part of this, and approve the policy this evening as all schools instead of just our middle, junior high, and high school?
I don't have that. There's a little bit of logistics, but that's probably not up for all of the discussion this evening. I mean, there's always, the more we add, I know it seems simplistic to some people, I just have to have this moment. Yeah. The more we add, the more I love to save the lives. I'm all for it. There's always logistic things and follow through. It's just another added thing that we'll have to add. We're not fully funded for nurses. It's not quite as easy as that, but we'll
yes, we don't have full-time nurses at all schools.
Correct, right. Just want to put that out there. And so just having staff, it is something that we do also just for even field trips. So I think that was one of the things that was out there. So just making sure that we do have those things and that we do have the ability to provide that for if there was an event for any kind of overdose. So for the 8 schools, yeah, there's no problem for doing that for elementary, middle, junior, and high school.
Richard, did you have something you wanted to add?
Yeah, and I know of some elementary schools like Evergreen Elementary School, for example, is downtown, and there are a lot of really sketchy people downtown, and I would imagine that that's a high-risk area if a child were to accidentally get access to anything or like step on a needle, or anybody who's gone downtown can attest to seeing people that do that stuff. And so I think that these resources should also be made available to elementary schools as well as middle and high schools.
Thank you, Richard. Sandy?
Is this considered first reading, or are we going right to second reading?
This wasn't, we've already approved this policy, but this was a recommended approval change. So the whole policy isn't being changed. It was literally just that wording to middle, junior high, and high school, which we had thought we had done previously, but that was not put into the policy. So the entirety of the policy was passed earlier this year.
Yeah, the reason I asked, because if it was first reading and we wanted more time for any research or answers on cost or logistics, we would be able to bring that back at second reading. If we're looking to just go straight to approval on this one because it was recently approved, then I would offer a amendment, or I would offer a motion to amend the policy to include elementary schools, if that's the proper procedure.
I just have a quick comment on that. I think the urgency is now, that's why we brought this actually to the school board this evening with no time to waste. So that's why I'm particularly looking to take action on that. Absolutely can add the elementary. I mean, just for the record, I'm just saying nothing happens tomorrow, but it can happen as soon as possible with our best intent, like any other policy that we have. But I think starting that as soon as possible for all of the schools is really, it is important. So
right, so if we put it in the policy that it can be all of the schools, then is that how we should change the wording when someone makes a motion, that we say all schools in the Shelton School District, or are we saying elementary, middle, junior high, high school? Do you want it categorized that way?
I prefer to add elementary to this, to add in for the clarity that it's at all those, because some people consider some things schools, but they're really programs.
Yes.
In the future, just in case there was changes, so for its life and eternity.
Do we know what other districts are doing, or has OSPI put out a word that they have a recommendation for where we have
I think
this medication?
Earlier tonight with the health department, she was saying that the North Mason School District has this in all of their schools, and she was reading through the language that it sounded like it didn't preclude people from doing it in any of the schools, even though there was a mandate for, if you would like to clarify.
Pioneer School, the middle school, not the elementary. Cooking House Schools, I believe, staff from all grades, the elementary and middle school. I've done a training with the Shelton High School, and I think there was nursing staff from choice there as well. Gosh, I think there's another one there, yeah.
Okay.
Oh, Greatview. Greatview Schools.
Okay.
Does that help answer that?
Well, that's Mason County, so that's a good indication.
Yeah, I don't have an exhaustive list of all of them. I do know districts did go through and most certainly provided that, as mentioned, in where that was in the RCW about high schools. So in other schools taking other districts taking, I'm sure, a varied approach. But I think for us in this community, in particular, given just the significance of how much this is impacting us across currently our community right here for the Shelton School District, I think adding in elementary on that line as part of the additional revision so that it does read each of its elementary, middle, junior high, and high schools would be my preference, and that we move forward with that. Again, today I was recommending that for the school board to both in a reading and for ultimate approval so that we can get going on this, because the crisis is abound, and it is literally right there for us, at least at the junior high level, for sure. And I just would hate to have that ability to not have that available for our students if anybody was to come in contact with it.
Okay, so we should make.
Okay, thank you. Yes, Sandy did make a motion. Could you I guess, clarify that so that everyone could hear that?
My computer's giving me fits, so I'm reading over Carla's shoulder here. I move to include elementary school along with middle and junior high and high schools in the opioid-related overdose reversal policy.
I'll second that.
All right, it's been moved and seconded to approve revised policy number 3424 with the addition of elementary schools as a revision in that line, along with middle, junior high, and high schools. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Hearing none, revised policy 3424 with those revisions has passed. All right. Now we get to move into the annual reorganization of the board. Every December, for the meeting in December, we do, as a school board, need to elect a chairman and a vice chairman. So that is what we have this evening. And we are going to begin with the election of a chairman, which is 8.01.
I nominate Commissioner Davison to maintain that.
Well, thank you.
Do you need a second on that?
We do.
I'll second that.
All right, thank you. It has been moved and seconded to elect Carrie Davidson, myself, as the chairman. So sounds so weird to say. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. All right, we will keep things as is with chairman for a second year. So now moving on to a vice chairman. Do we have a nomination?
Can I just ask for a point of clarification?
Yes.
To do a ask for
The-
names from the floor 3 times kind of thing
Oh, I don't know.
for this? No? Okay, thank you.
Yeah, I don't think so. I don't recall doing that before.
I would move to nominate Matthew Wielander for position of vice chairman, if he will accept.
I would.
And I'll second that.
It's been moved and seconded to elect Matt Wielander for the position of vice chairman. All those in favor say aye.
Aye.
Aye. All those opposed say no. Hearing none. Matt, you are now the vice chairman. He always wants to oppose it. He feels this knee-jerk reaction to do that. All right, so we are now at the point in the board meeting where we have board member comments. I know this has been a lengthy meeting, so thank you all for staying with us on this, and we do still have an exempt session after this. But Carla, can I start down there with you? I know you're not feeling 100%. We appreciate you coming to the meeting.
Well, I apologize for my voice. I've been home alone for 10 days, isolating, so I haven't talked to my cats enough, I guess. Anyway, it's very encouraging to hear how our district's doing, the state of the district report, Mountain View, the beautiful buildings that we're approving. It's really nice to have all those positive things going on in the Shelton School District. So that's all I'd like to say.
Thank you very much. Sandy.
I want to thank the community members that came out to speak tonight. I know that it can be an intimidating task to stand in front of a group and present your opinions, and we appreciate you doing that. I also want to say, having finished the Mountain View paperwork, I'm sure there's a couple people out here No, I was going to say jumping for joy, but I see a shaking of the head, so maybe not all the paperwork is finished. There's still more. I'm sorry.
Yeah.
I got a little excited, I guess. Thank you, and I just want to wish everyone a happy December and a Merry Christmas.
All right, Matt.
So first of all, it's kind of sad. You look at the drug problem that we have and the things that have been popping up, and to need to be visited by the health department and the coroner and all of that. But you look at the stigma and everything out there. The who's using drugs and the who's homeless and the who's a mess and all of this. And as we come into Christmas and kind of that time where it's supposed to be all joyous and everything, instead of pointing fingers, ask why. Be compassionate and see what's going on in these people's lives that are putting them down that direction. To go a step further, I'll point to a study by WIAA for all of the parents out there. If your kids are involved in sports, automotive, sorry they left, CTE, band, any of those things where you're required to have a given grade point to participate in activities. They show the decreased drug use, decreased teen pregnancy, and increased grades. To point to that, this year our football team again had a grade point, a cumulative of a 3.2 average, had over a dozen people with a 3.12 average, had over a dozen with a 3.5 or better, and had 5 football players with a 4.0. That's a big deal. Richard, when you said the ASB guys got together and asked a question, I really expected you to want better flavors in the Pepsi machine. I am both saddened and proud that bathroom safety is a thing. I mean, it points towards the maturity that is being fostered in high school, that you guys are looking at actual problems and wanting, corrections and those sorts of things. The fact that you want more counselors and you're worried about mental health of all the students and the access to that, keep that going. Wish the car guys were still here. And as we get ready to head to Christmas, keep reading, find good books, get out there. The weather's going to be crummy, so you shouldn't be driving anyways. So read books. All right? Thanks.
Wow, I don't know how to follow up on that. So I will keep it short. Thank you all for coming. Thank you for the work that you do for the school district. I know the principal and vice principal of Mountain View had to leave too. I appreciate their report. Robert, you with maintenance, all of your guys and women, everybody that's out there working so hard in our schools, our teachers, our para-educators, all helping to get our students where they need to be. I hope everybody does have a happy holiday, Merry Christmas, and we will need to stick around to sign some paperwork and then go into an exempt session that should take about 15 minutes, 15, 20 minutes. And then we will come out and adjourn because there is possible action on that. So we won't adjourn at this point in time, but we will come back after exempt session. So thank you all for coming. You're welcome to stick around until we do come back out.
Education Association. Second. It's been moved and seconded to approve the proposed bargain agreement with the Shelton Education Association. All those in favor say aye. Aye. All those opposed say no. Hearing none, the proposed bargain agreement has passed. All we have left is adjournment. Is there a motion to adjourn?